That's the problem. That's the problem. That's right. That's actually why we have intrapsychic conflict, I think, because we have one output apparatus and a dozen input apparatuses, and only one gets control at a time. So that's the nature of conflict, is when motivational system A is saying run like hell, and motivational system B is saying, well, let's get something to eat, and motivational system C is saying, well, we should actually go visit our friends. So that's conflict, and there's only one output. That's right. That's affective dysregulation.
But you can have one output that serves more than one goal.
That's true. That's true. That's what we're hoping for. One output that serves all goals, all goals that are valid. That's what we're looking for. What behavioral pattern best satisfies all conceivable motivational goals in a social context composed of individuals who are doing exactly the same thing?
But that'll have to be defined over time.
There's more to it. That works over time, that's stable enough to maintain itself, and flexible enough to readjust. That's the
logically how this maps in some sense right onto the neural structure of your being. You want to put something in control, and the thing that you should put in control is the bloody thing that pays attention and learns, right? Everything else in the hierarchy should be subordinate to the thing that pays attention and learns.
It's stable enough to maintain itself and flexible enough to readjust. That's the criteria for the solution. So that's listed out in here somewhere. So yes, temporality makes a big difference, because what works, that's why another attraction for authoritarian societies is they work, but not for very long. They're not very good at power transitions. When the king dies, all the people that he's squashed are just squashed people, because they don't make very good kings, and that sort of makes the authoritarian state decline. Well, it has to have two aspects. It has to be stable, but it also has to have the capacity to update itself with stability. That's right. So the best story is a story about how to update stories when that's necessary, and that's the story of the hero. And well, anyways, you don't even habituate to the unknown. What you do is explore it and classify it. On this story, it works. To the degree that it isn't, it doesn't. We know, like, one of the major factors in promoting therapeutic improvement is exposure to threatening or anomalous information. So Freud thought that something terrible has happened to you in the past, that's trauma, right? So that's an event that you can't make sense of. Freud, it's hard to define trauma, but we'll just leave it at that for now. Freud originally thought that all you had to do was bring that traumatic experience up into consciousness. That was catharsis. He would be cured. But he knew by the end of his life that didn't work. Behavior therapists have said, no, you have to do more than that. You have to adjust someone's actions. So that's the thing. If what a therapeutic system does is expose you to anomalous or threatening information and make you readjust your behavior as a consequence. To the degree that you do that, you're cured. If you won't do it, you're not. So, well, habituation usually means something like getting used to. But most of the time when you encounter, you don't just habituate to anomalous or threatening information. If you're getting pounded flat every day you go to school, say, and you're a child, you do not habituate to that. The only way that you can get used to it, so to speak, is to alter your behaviors or your scheme of representation so that bully is no longer pounding on you. So that means you might have to, I don't know what you'll have to do. Take karate lessons, weight lift, get a new group of tougher friends, bring a knife to school, something. But until you transform the source of the threat, then, well, you're not going to habituate because you don't get used to it.
You'd like to turn it into something positive, but you don't necessarily turn it into something positive. You can turn it into something neutral. And if you're bad at
That's right.
Maybe it stays negative.
Yeah, neutral's not so bad, but it's not as good as positive. So if you're really successful, if it's one thing to chase the dragon away, it's another thing to get the goal. If you're really successful, you get the goal. Because he thought in fact that therapy was a ritual, and he thought that what therapy did was basically initiate a sequence of activities that were biologically predicated, and that our capacity to hero worship was one of the things that led our adaptation. So you think about this. I mean, you know that children will hero worship. They'll imitate. Right? They'll imitate their parents, or they'll pick a child who's slightly older and act them out, literally. follow them around and duplicate their actions. So their capacity for awe drives their ability to move behavioral information from one place to another. Well, Jung just, your heart rate goes up, and it's confrontation and conflict, and that's because you're encountering that domain that hasn't been properly mapped or configured, and you're doing that with your predator detection systems essentially, and so that chaos that threatens the stability, say, of the mass you're surrounded by. Nothing you can control. It's varying. That's an existential crisis, right? It's anxiety-provoking and depressing. Very hard on people. And even more than that, it turns out that the way that we're constructed neurophysiologically is that we don't experience any positive emotion unless we have an aim, and we can see ourselves progressing towards that aim. And if you don't have a noble aim, then you have nothing but shallow, trivial pleasures, and they don't sustain you. And that's not good, because life is so difficult, so much suffering, it's so complex, it ends, and everyone dies, and it's painful. It's like, without a noble aim, how can you withstand any of that? You can't. You become desperate, and once you become desperate, things go from bad to worse very rapidly. No one can tolerate being alone for any length of time. We can't maintain our own sanity without continual feedback from other people, because it's too damn complicated. So you're constrained by your own existence, and then you're constrained by the existence of other people, and then you're also constrained by the world. But behavioral truth isn't the same as objective truth. What you should do isn't the same as what is, as far as I can tell. People debate that, but I think the reason that has to be the case is because, think about it this way. You're standing in front of a field, and you can see the field, but the field doesn't tell you how to walk through it. There's an infinite number of ways you could walk through it. And so you can't extract out an inviolable guide to how you should act from the array of facts that are in front of you, because there's just too many facts.